Sacramento, California history. Sacramento is the capital city of California and the county seat of Sacramento County. The city sits at the meeting point of the Sacramento and American Rivers in the fertile Sacramento Valley. Today, it ranks as the fourth most populous city in Northern California, the sixth largest in the state, and the 35th in the United States, with a population of more than 500,000 people. The greater Sacramento metropolitan area is home to nearly 2.5 million residents, making it one of the largest metro regions in the nation. Long before Spanish or European settlers arrived, the Sacramento region was home to the Nisenan, Maidu, and several other indigenous peoples of California. Their deep connection to the land shaped the culture and history of the valley. In 1808, Spanish cavalry officer Gabriel Moraga explored the area and named the river Rio del Santísimo Sacramento, or Sacramento River, in honor of the Blessed Sacrament. A major turning point in Sacramento's history came in 1839, when Mexican governor Juan Bautista Alvarado gave Swiss immigrant John Augustus Sutter permission to establish a colony in the Sacramento Valley. Sutter founded Sutter's Fort and the settlement of Rancho Nueva Helvetia, which quickly became a hub for trade and migration. Following the American conquest of California and the signing of the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo in 1848, Sacramento began to grow rapidly. The settlement along the riverfront expanded and, in 1850, was officially incorporated as the city of Sacramento. Just 2 years later, city leaders offered the local courthouse to the state legislature. And by 1854, Sacramento had been chosen as California's permanent state capital. The construction of a grand new state capitol building soon followed, completed in 1874, a lasting symbol of Sacramento's central role in California history. Spanish period. The story of Sacramento, California history takes us back to 1808, when Spanish explorer Gabriel Moraga ventured into the Sacramento Valley and along the Sacramento River. A chronicler traveling with his expedition captured the natural beauty of the region in vivid detail, describing towering oaks and cottonwoods draped with grapevines, birds filling the trees with sound, and fish darting through the clear waters. The air was so fresh and intoxicating that the explorers compared it to the sacred experience of the Eucharist. It was in this moment that the valley and the river received their name, honoring the most holy sacrament of the body and blood of Christ. From that point forward, the name Sacramento became forever linked with this land. Mexican period. Sacramento's next chapter began during the Mexican period. On August 13, 1839, John Sutter Sr., a Swiss immigrant who had become a Mexican citizen, arrived at the confluence of the American and Sacramento rivers with a vast land grant of 50,000 acres. The following year, he established Sutter's Fort, an imposing adobe structure with walls nearly 18 feet high and 3 feet thick. This settlement became the foundation of what he called New Helvetia, a name inspired by his Swiss roots. Under Sutter's leadership, New Helvetia grew into a thriving colony. Acting as both political leader and judge, he oversaw a growing community fueled by agriculture and trade. Within a few years, Sutter owned a 10-acre orchard, thousands of head of cattle, and Fort Sutter became a vital stop for pioneers moving westward. In 1847, the arrival of 2,000 fruit trees laid the foundation for Sacramento's rich agricultural tradition. That same year, Sutter hired James Marshall to construct a sawmill to further expand his influence. Yet, behind this apparent success, Sutter's empire was fragile, built on credit and vulnerable to the economic tides of the era. American period. The discovery of gold in 1848 transformed Sacramento forever. When James W. Marshall struck gold at Sutter's mill in Coloma, word spread quickly, and thousands of fortune seekers poured into the Sacramento Valley. The population exploded almost overnight. For John Sutter Sr., whose vast landholdings had once seemed secure, the gold rush proved disastrous. Miners squatted on his property, stole livestock, and stripped away his resources. What should have been an opportunity became a financial nightmare. Amid this chaos, Sutter's son, John Sutter Jr., saw opportunity. In partnership with entrepreneur Samuel Brannan, he began planning a new city 2 miles south of his father's settlement. In December 1848, they laid out what became Sacramento City, named after the river. U.S. Army Captain William H. Warner was tasked with drafting the grid of streets, which stretched from C Street to Broadway and from Front Street to Alhambra Boulevard. Unlike his father's ventures, the new city thrived, and Sutter Jr.'s success created a permanent rift between father and son. By 1849, Sacramento residents had adopted a city charter, and in February 1850, Sacramento officially became California's first incorporated city. Yet its early years were anything but easy. In January 1850, a devastating flood nearly destroyed the city, washing away homes and drowning livestock. Efforts to build levees earned Sacramento the nickname the Levee City, but repeated storms breached these defenses, flooding the community again and again. As if floods weren't enough, a deadly cholera epidemic struck in 1850, killing around 1,000 residents, including the city's first mayor, Hardin Bigelow. That same year, as much as 80% of the population fled. In 1852, another disaster struck when the Great Conflagration swept through Sacramento, destroying more than 80% of its buildings. Yet the city's people rebuilt quickly, this time turning to brick for greater safety. Despite floods, fire, and disease, Sacramento's strategic location near the Sierra Nevada goldfields made it impossible to abandon. By the early 1850s, the city's population surged to 10,000. But even greater challenges lay ahead. The Great Flood of 1862 brought the worst devastation in Sacramento's history. Governor Leland Stanford, inaugurated that same January, had to row a boat through the flooded streets to reach his swearing-in. Through hardship after hardship, Sacramento persevered, securing its place as the resilient heart of California. Sacramento becomes the capital. Sacramento's importance grew rapidly in the mid-19th century. In the early years of statehood, California's capital shifted from city to city. First San Jose in 1850, then Vallejo in 1852, and Benicia in 1853. But in 1854, with the support of Governor John Bigler, the California state legislature finally moved to Sacramento. That same decade, the city consolidated with Sacramento County, and in the Constitutional Convention of 1879, Sacramento was officially declared the permanent capital of California. Construction on the California state capitol began in 1860, modeled in part after the U.S. Capitol in Washington, D.C. Work continued for over a decade, and though the building was not finished until 1874, the legislature began using its chambers in 1869. In the meantime, state business had to adapt to Sacramento's frequent floods. At one point in 1861, the legislature even met in San Francisco. During Governor Leland Stanford's term, the Stanford Mansion in Sacramento temporarily served as the governor's office, reflecting the city's growing stature. The rise of transportation and commerce. With its new political status and prime location, Sacramento soon became a transportation and commercial powerhouse. It was chosen as the western terminus of the famed Pony Express and, more significantly, as the starting point of the first Transcontinental Railroad. Construction began in 1863, financed by the Big Four railroad magnates, Mark Hopkins, Charles Crocker, Collis P. Huntington, and Leland Stanford. The railroad cemented Sacramento's role as the gateway between California's goldfields, its capital, and the rest of the nation. The Sacramento and American rivers also fueled this growth. The city controlled vital river commerce, and public works were financed by taxes on goods unloaded from boats and transferred to rail cars in the bustling Sacramento rail yards. This connection between waterways and rail lines made Sacramento a true hub of California's 19th century economy, engineering a resilient city. But Sacramento still faced one of its greatest challenges: flooding. Between 1862 and the mid-1870s, the city undertook an ambitious project to raise the level of its downtown streets. Builders constructed reinforced brick walls, filled them with dirt, and elevated the roads. The old ground floors of buildings became basements, and sidewalks once at street level now sat below ground. Though many of these underground spaces have since been altered or destroyed, some remnants of the Sacramento underground remain visible today, a reminder of the city's determination to adapt and endure. Modern era. Sacramento entered the modern era with a new city charter, adopted by voters in 1920. As a charter city, Sacramento gained greater independence from certain state laws, allowing it to manage its own affairs with more flexibility. Over the following decades, the city continued to grow steadily. A major milestone came in 1964, when the city of North Sacramento merged with Sacramento, significantly boosting the population. Later annexations, especially in the Natomas area, fueled additional waves of growth through the 1970s, 1980s, and 1990s. One of Sacramento's most significant public achievements came with the creation of the Sacramento Municipal Utility District, or SMUD. Approved by voters in 1923, SMUD became reality in 1946 after years of legal battles with Pacific Gas and Electric. Since then, SMUD has grown into one of the largest publicly owned utilities in the United States and has become known for its leadership in clean energy programs, including pioneering investments in solar power. The 1920s also saw Sacramento emerge as a hub of culture and development. In 1924, Vern McGeorge established the McGeorge School of Law, which would later become part of the University of the Pacific. That same year, the Weinstock and Lubin department store opened its new downtown location. The elegant $2 million Senator Hotel welcomed guests, and Sacramento introduced filtered and treated drinking water for the first time. Even the city's sports scene was in the spotlight, as local boxer Georgie Lee faced international champion Pancho Villa at the L Street Auditorium. World War II brought darker chapters. In 1942, under Executive Order 9066, the U.S. government forced Japanese Americans from their homes and placed them in detention camps. Sacramento became the site of the Walerga Assembly Center, one of 15 temporary facilities where Japanese Americans were held before being transferred to more permanent camps like Tule Lake. In just 52 days, nearly 5,000 people passed through the Sacramento camp. After the war, many returning Japanese American families faced housing shortages and temporarily lived at the site, which later became known as Camp Kohler. A fire destroyed the camp in 1947, and the area eventually developed into the Foothill Farms, North Highlands neighborhood. The post-war years also brought economic progress. In 1947, the Sacramento Yolo Port District was created, and by 1949, construction began on the Port of Sacramento. This project connected the capital city to global trade networks, further cementing its role as a vital hub for commerce and industry in Northern California. Late 20th century and beyond, Sacramento continued to grow and evolve through the second half of the 20th century. On June 29, 1963, the motor vessel Taipei Victory arrived at the Port of Sacramento, welcomed by 5,000 spectators. It was the first ocean-going ship to dock in the city since the steamship Harpoon nearly 3 decades earlier, signaling Sacramento's increasing role in international trade. In 1967, Ronald Reagan became the last governor of California to reside permanently in Sacramento, reflecting a shift in how state leaders divided their time between the capital and other parts of the state. The following decades brought major changes to the city's economy and landscape. The 1980s and 1990s saw the closure of key military installations, including McClellan Air Force Base, Mather Air Force Base, and the Sacramento Army Depot. A devastating flood struck in 1980, adding to the city's long history of battling natural disasters. Despite the loss of military jobs and the decline of the agricultural processing industry, Sacramento experienced steady population growth. Much of this came from new residents moving in from the nearby San Francisco Bay Area, along with waves of immigration from Asia and Latin America that enriched the city's cultural fabric. Not all headlines were positive. In 1985, Sacramento computer store owner Hugh Scruton was tragically killed by a bomb planted outside his shop. More than a decade later, the crime was attributed to the infamous Unabomber, Theodore Kaczynski. Yet Sacramento's spirit of resilience continued into the 21st century. One of the city's most high-profile modern projects was the construction of the Golden One Center. After new ownership took over the Sacramento Kings, team owner Vivek Ranadive partnered with the city to bring a state-of-the-art arena to the heart of downtown. Completed in 2016 at a cost of more than $500 million, the Golden One Center became both the home of the Kings and a symbol of Sacramento's commitment to revitalization and growth. From its indigenous roots to its role in the gold rush, from floods and fires to modern innovation, Sacramento's history is a story of resilience, transformation, and ambition. Today, it stands not only as California's capital, but also as a city that has continually adapted to meet the challenges of each new era. If you enjoyed this journey through Sacramento, California history, make sure to subscribe to History Love, your go-to YouTube channel for exploring the fascinating stories of the past.